This lecture is about associative arrays. To understand associative arrays, think about the following socks analogy. Imagine that you're getting ready for work and you want to get your socks from the third drawer of your chest drawer. In this analogy, the chest drawer is like an array that can store multiple pieces together, which can be accessed by an index number. Each drawer from the chest drawer has an index number, so if you want your socks from the third drawer, you can simply open the third drawer to access the socks. To illustrate how this would look from a scripting perspective, let's imagine that we have a chest_drawer array with the elements shirts, sports clothing, socks, and jeans. In this sample, we are expanding the variable chest_drawer by accessing its third element, by using the number 2 index. Remember that indices start from 0, so to reference the third element, you have to start from index 0, which refers to the first element. Index 1 refers to the second element, and so on. However, what if we are in a situation where using the index number is not ideal? What if there is a way to tell Bash to return the socks element without having to know its index location beforehand? To do this, we can use associative arrays, which is a name given to a type of data structure in Bash that has been available since Bash version 4.0 and onwards. Associative arrays provide the option to access an element from an array by using a key, which returns its value. There's a small rewiring in your brain that is required in order to think about associative arrays correctly. So first, I'm going to show you how the socks example would be resolved. Then, I'll show you a better example that hopefully will illustrate the use of associative arrays better. To try this sample, check your Bash version first like this. See how for me, this produces the version 5.2.15. If you have a version number that precedes version 4, the following samples will not work. Next, make sure you use the declare-A to declare the associative arrays. This is one of the few declarations in Bash where we are forced to explicitly call the data type we want to use. Without this explicit declaration, chances are you will get an error message when trying to run the following code. Observe how when running this script, we use socks as the key to retrieve the value that says formal and everyday socks. This is because now, instead of accessing the socks drawer by using an index number, we explicitly pass the string of the element that we are looking for, and with that, we gain access to the value stored in it. Now let me give you another analogy that I think will help illustrate the benefits of associative arrays much better. Imagine you are managing a list of emergency contacts, where each contact has a name and a phone number. You want to be able to quickly access a contact's phone number using their name as an identifier, without having to remember the index number where a specific contact is stored. This is where associative arrays come in handy. In this script, we are declaring an associative array with the phone numbers of the fire department, police department, and a hospital. Observe how when running the script, just the phone number by the fire department gets returned, as we are doing an echo to the array name, placing the key fire department inside the square brackets. This is ideal in many situations where we want to perform an action to a certain element's value that we want to retrieve using its key. So let's define this associative arrays concept using what is known as a key-value pair format. To wrap your head around this concept, think of the key as the element that you want to bring, and the value as the element you want to perform an action against. Another way to look at this is by thinking about a person's email. So you want to know someone's email, and you just type their name as a key to return such value. Observe from this sample how the key names are case sensitive. So by passing Mark as key with a capital M, we get to standard output, in return, Mark's email. But if we were to do an echo to Mark with lowercase letters, like in this following sample, the script would produce an empty standard output. To add more elements to an associative array, we can simply express the associative array's variable name with a known existing key value enclosed in square brackets, like in the example shown at the screen. and then an equal sign to assign a value for the new key element that we're inserting into the associative array. Observe, by the way, how we are using the @ symbol to print all of the elements from the associative array at once. Something to pay attention to is how, when executing this script, the elements don't retain the same order in which they were originally declared. This is because associative arrays have no regard for the order in how the elements are stored. All we care about is that each key is a unique way to access a value, which takes me to the next sample, where I'm going to demonstrate how to replace a value for an existing key, which involves just typing the associative array's variable name, then square brackets, and then the key element that we want to replace the value for, and then the variable assignation syntax with an equal sign to assign a new variable for this key element. In this sample, we just replaced the value of fong@email.com to fong2@email.com, which can be seen on the second line of the output. This demonstrates how to replace the value for an existing element in an associative array. Now let me talk about removing elements from an associative array. To do this, we can simply type the onset command followed by the key name that we want to get removed from the associative array, like in the example shown on the screen. From this sample, we can observe how we have two echo commands, one that will produce an output that contains all of the values originally assigned to the email_addresses variable. Then we use an onset command to remove the element criti. This will remove both the key and the value, because remember, the key's purpose in a key-value pair type of data structure is so that we can interact with the element. On the second line of output produced by the script, we can observe how the criti@email.com value is no longer there. So to remove all of the elements of an associative array, the onset command followed by the variable name given to the associative array with no other constructs is enough. Here, we are demonstrating how the associative array had all of the elements in the first echo, and the second echo comes out empty as we've used the onset command without the square bracket notation we've been using so far to access its elements. One last concept to explore is what to do if we wanted to use echo to produce to standard output the key name instead of the value. Here's a quick sample of how the first echo we have on this script would produce the key names containing the associative array by placing an exclamation mark at the beginning of the variable name. The values can still be accessed just by using the regular array expansion syntax we've been using throughout this section. This is especially useful when using a for loop, as we'd normally need access to the key names to access the values of an associative array. Take a look at the sample where we are demonstrating how we can access each value separately from the associative array by using a for loop where we iterate over the key names from the associative arrays as we are placing a bang or exclamation mark symbol before the variable name in the for loop declaration block. A couple of interesting remarks from this script are, we are enclosing the email_address associative array variable that we are iterating over using double quotes. This is because if there happen to be spaces in the words used as keys, bash would take the spaces as separate elements. By enclosing the variable with double quotes, we are enforcing bash to iterate over the keys as separate elements, just as defined in the associative array, and so we are preventing bash from separating the elements by the presence or absence of certain characters, like a space for example. As observed from this output, this is a helpful technique that can help access individual elements from an associative array to allow us to perform separate actions on each element before moving on to the next one. Here, we are adding formatted text that describes what the current key being iterated is, and then we are using the key to access the value of the associative array, resulting in the output shown on the screen, which can be read as Kriti's email is kriti@email.com. Rajashekar's email is rajasekar@email.com. Mark's email is mark@email.com, etc. That's it for this lecture on associative arrays. Hope you found it useful.